Traveling the Vortex.
We've joined the Doctor as he travels the Vortex and landed at episode number 242, where we're having some sort of multi-Doctor events, whether we like it or not. I'm Keith.
I'm Sean.
I'm Glenn.
How are you guys?
Apparently it's been a better week all the way around.
For you.
For you.
No, we've had better weeks all the way
we've
around.
had
We've had better weeks.
Past tense, we have had.
Looking on the bright side, you guys got to see my house.
Yeah, finally.
We were recording at my place.
Not yet.
Well, Glenn got to see part of the house. Sean still hasn't seen all of it either. There's still a room he hasn't seen. And the attic.
It's mostly nice.
Thank you.
Mostly nice.
Mostly meaning you've seen.
I've seen most of it. Mostly nice. Mostly.
Yes, we were recording at my house this week.
And a little later than normal.
And a little later than normal, which we will get to.
There's reasons for that.
Multiple reasons, unfortunately. Sean, how was your week? I think you probably had the best one out of all of us.
I made out far better than I think the rest of you guys did. It was fairly uneventful, for which I was kind of grateful. Didn't quite go as planned, but you know. We caught up on a couple of... we're still working our way through some older films. We watched Bad Boys in preparation for trying to watch the second one, because I've never seen the second one. I thought, well, I need to go back and rewatch the first one. And I like Bad Boys. And then I watched it.
Are you counting that as an old film?
Yeah.
Okay. Just one clarification.
Made in the 90s, so...
Well, anything older than like this year, you know, is...
Okay.
That one did not hold up well.
I don't think I've ever seen it.
If you'd asked me before this last watch, I said, oh, it's good. It's one of Michael Bay's better films. And yeah, you should totally watch it. Now I don't know if I can say that. It's very dated and it doesn't hold up. It's just kind of, Even Mel was like, why do we own this one? And it's hers. It's not mine. So there was that. And then in preparation for Lance Henriksen, who's going to be at a con coming up, I started compiling a little photo montage to, I want this photo and this picture and this picture and this picture on the wall. And realized Mel's never seen The Quick and the Dead, and she's never seen No Escape, which are two of my personal favorite Lance Henriksen films, even though he's got little bit parts in them, basically. So I went down and fired up the Laserdisc player, and we were going to watch No Escape. And there's something wrong with my Laserdisc player.
Aww.
It put the disc in, and it booted up fine. The drawer opened, it closed, hit play, and it went, and then the play button went away, and it didn't play. And so I took it to Seth at work and said, have you ever opened one of these before? And he got this big grin on his face, because Seth's my resident tech geek when it comes to, physically. So he's good with game systems and stuff like that. So have you ever taken apart a Laserdisc player? And he got that faraway, dreamy look and a big smile on his face and said, no, but I've always wanted to. Okay, buddy, here's your chance. So the weird thing is it played Star Wars.
Huh.
Which is a CAV disc versus No Escape, which is CLV. It has to do with recording speeds. And I really hope that doesn't mean what I think it means, which is that the laser has a different power reading for the recording speed of the disc. And it might mean the laser's going out.
Oh.
And I hope that's not the case. But Mel was so funny because, we're sitting on the couch and she looks at me, she goes, don't you own this on DVD? I said, no, I own it on Laserdisc. Why would I need it on DVD? So now I'm kind of...
Now you got to go own it on DVD.
Now I've been hunting it up on DVD and it's not available anymore, so it's out of print.
It's not even on Blu-ray?
No.
I've never seen it, so I don't know. Obviously, it's not on DVD.
You're excused.
and you can't borrow it on Blu-ray or on Laserdisc.
I'd loan it to you, but it's one of
Even
those.
if it was on VHS, I don't have a way to play it.
And you've seen it, haven't you?
I think
Ray
I have
Liotta.
a long time ago. Yeah. I don't remember much about it.
It's a silly, futuristic prison movie. So it immediately think Escape from New York or...
okay.
It's one of those genres.
It's one of those ones I popped in one time when I was at Duncan's on VHS. Watched in the store on a slow day.
I think it's fun. I think it's a really fun movie. But it's got Lance Henriksen. Ray Liotta is the main star. It's got Lance Henriksen. I think Matt Dillon's in it. Ernie Hudson's in it. Oh. So it's got some peeps. But That was really pretty much it. We had a pretty quiet week. I had a couple of rotten days of work, but I'm not going to get into those. So, pretty quiet day. Pretty quiet week. What did you do, Glenn?
Mine went relatively well. I don't remember if I talked about last week on the show hurting my back on Monday before we came back from. I think I did. I think I mentioned it. I bent over. Just a quick recap. I bent over to tie a shoe, and I just had this really bad back pain and just kind of lived with it. Walked around on Monday. Tuesday was a little better. Wednesday it was a little better. Thursday it was a little better. Friday it felt really good. And I went to I was cleaning out some cables in my bag, and I found a cable for my razor. So I went and plugged it into the wall, and as I bent down to plug it into the wall, boom, just blinding pain all across the bottom of my back, center and back. Oh, I was in so much pain. And so I went to the floor and had to crawl to get my phone to either A, call an ambulance, or B, call somebody to help. But what's the first thing I do? I called work to let them know there was no way in heck I was going to be there. Because that's what I was doing. I had actually been getting ready to go to work. And so I was laying there, and I thought, oh, I could call an ambulance, but I know what this is probably going to be, and they're not going to do anything else to me at the ER that they wouldn't do at emergent care. So I called my mom. I said, do you still have the key to my house? Yeah, why? I said, well, I'm and she said I sounded like I was in hysterics. I don't remember sounding like I was in hysterics, but I might have been because I was in a massive pain. And I said, well, I'm on the floor, hurt my back, I can't get up. So she rushed over and came inside. And
that would be funny if it wasn't so.
She thought maybe between the two of us, she could get me up and we could go to urgent care. And so every time I just would try to move, I just had this screaming, blinding, stars in my eyes pain. And so I finally managed to get rolled over on my back, which was, at least while I was laying still, was comfortable enough and bearable for the pain. She called my sister because she thought, well, maybe between the two of them, we could get me up off the floor. So my sister came over, and every time I tried to move, again, screaming, blinding pain. So my mom said, well, she's got all kinds of ailments. She said, I've got muscle relaxers and painkillers at the house. Well, I'll go get those. So she got them, and she came back, and her and I were hemming on whether to take it or not. And my sister just said, give him the medicine. Give me the muscle relaxer. So she gave me the muscle relaxer, and after it kicked in, I was able to move finally without having searing pain. But anytime I tried to do up motion, like sitting up or even rolled over on my stomach, pushing myself up, screaming, blinding pain again. So I laid there for a little bit longer, and Karen said, did you bring the painkillers? And my mom said, yeah. And she goes, give me one of those. So she gave me the painkiller, and I laid there for a little while. And after it kicked in, I could finally get up on my arms. But the problem was I couldn't push, because I had been trying, and I was so exhausted from the pain, I couldn't get myself up very high. So Caitlin finally, my mom went and got Caitlin. She came home. Caitlin remembered we had Holly's step aerobic thing. Oh. And so what they thought is if I could just get up to that and then get up to the chair, that I could get up to the point where I could get my knees under me, which is what ended up finally happening. And I got up and just was walking at a snail's pace. And my mom, luckily, she had a cane that she occasionally uses in the car. So we managed to do that and got myself to emergent care, and he got me set up with some pain relief. And while I was there, I think both pain relievers or the both pills finally really kicked in, and I actually almost passed out in the doctor's office. But I think that was partly because of exhaustion and pain and the pills and everything on top of that. So anyway, I've been home all weekend long, in and out of consciousness, laying on my back, trying to get better. I did go to the doctor yesterday. I was feeling a little better yesterday. I managed to get myself to the doctor, my actual primary care physician, and he re-upped my pills, gave me a steroid to help with the inflammation. But the thing that troubled him the most was he kept pushing on the muscles, which if it's a sprain or a strain, when you push on the muscles, it should hurt. Yeah. And it doesn't. So he's a little concerned it might be something further down inside. And he said if I'm not better in about 7 to 10 days, they're going to send me in for an MRI. So regardless of that, I have been managing to go to work and get all that done, but it's been really slow going. So anyway, that was my That was my mess.
Well, we're glad you're upright at least.
Anything positive from the week?
I did quickly. I watched 2 films. First, I watched because here
you've been home all week,
let
right?
me set this up. No, I haven't been.
Well, in
I
and
was
out
at
of
school.
consciousness, so
Well,
it's no problem.
no, I was. This was last week before the
Those were
Friday.
watched the not very good ones.
This was before the Friday event. Well, that's why I probably should have watched the one on Painkiller I'm about to talk about. But BuzzFeed had a list of how many superhero movies have you seen?
Oh, yeah,
and
yeah.
so I went through and I ticked it when I realized how many I had, and I thought, I need to rectify that. So I was home on before work on Monday. If I babble anything, it's probably the drugs that incoherently. But before work,
If you do, we'll just let you go. And
I fired up Hulu and I saw that Super, the James Gunn movie with.
Oh, yeah. That's on Netflix, too.
Oh, is it on Netflix?
Yeah.
I didn't see it on Netflix when I did a can I stream it? But Hulu has it, and it's commercial free, which was kind of cool. Any of the IFC films that are on there, you get those commercial free. There's no
That's
commercial.
nice.
Yeah,
That's cool.
So I watched Super, and not a good movie. It's not a good movie at all.
I didn't think you would like it.
It's only
I
slightly.
think that was what, in my review, you
It's
wouldn't
only
like it.
slightly better than Kick-Ass, but same premise, kind of.
Nowhere
And
near as good as Slither.
well, it was actually better than Slither. I'll give him that. But it wasn't a horrible movie. It wasn't a horrible movie. It's not my cup of tea. It was just kind of it's a real
wasn't
downer.
as funny as I expected.
There's a really
I've heard there's a big downer.
there's
in it.
kind of a convoluted message in it, but I'm not sure what it is. And I keep thinking, why do I love Guardians of the Galaxy so much? Because those 2 James Gunn movies now that I've seen that I didn't like, but I love Guardians of the Galaxy. So anyway, there's that. The other one, and because I felt the next day, I think Thursday, because I was a little glut for punishment, Catwoman is on.
Oh, good God!
Catwoman is on HBO now, and so I thought, all right, I want to just get this one out of the way. I've heard how terrible it is. It's not as bad as everybody makes it out to be.
Horrible.
It's what makes it better for me is they didn't even try to do a DC Catwoman. It's its own thing. It's a completely different storyline. What's her name? Patience. She's not Selena Kyle. It's a whole new theory.
A whole new character.
It's not a stinker. It's not a great film. It's not a good film, but it's not a stinker. I mean, I think people really, really bash the film probably more than it deserves. The one scene that they point to that is horrible is the basketball court scene, and I completely agree with that one. But overall, I thought it was fine. It wasn't a waste of my time. I'll put it that way.
I have thoughts on that one that I cannot share on air. But if you would like them after we're done,
I thought Sharon Stone did a pretty good job.
I will happily give them to you.
I think that's it, though. I didn't do much else. This weekend was bed and semi-consciousness. So
Keith,
I had a
how
very.
was your week?
It was really good up to yesterday.
ups and downs,
It was really good.
lots of ups and then one
really big down. So I was off all week since Wednesday because Wednesday was my birthday and today.
Happy birthday, by the
now.
way.
Thank you.
You still didn't bring your stuff.
Technically, now yesterday was our anniversary, so I took off the whole time.
Oh yeah, happy anniversary!
Thank you.
I missed that one
3
altogether,
years.
didn't I? Yep. On Facebook, I didn't give you any. Yeah.
I was
Don't
gonna
worry.
give you a shout out when I saw in my Facebook does that memories thing
Oh,
now
yeah,
and it posts pictures or it allows you to post pictures from several years ago and I saw your wedding pictures and I went, oh, I should give a shout out to
Hey,
Keith.
wait a minute. You only are with her because of me.
Yeah, it's true.
You should have thanked me yesterday.
Thank you, Sean.
Well, there you go. You're welcome, Keith.
But going back Wednesday, we went and saw, for my birthday, Terminator Genesis. I really liked it. It was really enjoyable. I don't see why. I knew, I went in knowing a decent amount, probably more than I should have, more than you did for sure.
Because you'd seen the trailer.
I'd seen the trailer, and then I also, my curiosity got the better of me. I wanted to know who Matt Smith played.
Damn it, Keith.
But that's all I knew. I just knew who he played. I didn't know the context of anything. I saw, oh, that's who it is. Okay, I went away. So I was thoroughly impressed by it and really enjoyed it. Sarah loved it. And she was kind of meh on the other two. I think part of why she didn't like T2 as much was she didn't like Sarah in that movie. She thought she was a little too hard of a character. And she liked her in the first one and didn't like her in the second one. And she liked Emilia Clarke's portrayal of the character. So I think that helped a lot too.
Sarah goes through such a flip.
Yeah, it's such a hard shift.
Yeah.
You don't see the gradual growth. It's a very hard shift. So I really enjoyed that. The next night we went and saw Minions with my mother, which I enjoyed. It was very cute. You didn't give your review on the episode, but
it's at home on the cutting room floor.
Yeah, basically his review was not as good as the Despicable Me movies, but enjoyable, and it was. It absolutely was. It had a great soundtrack.
I think it suffers from too much Minions, in my opinion. They're good. They're good side comedy characters. I don't think they can drive a whole movie.
I was a little worried it would get really old, and it didn't get as old as I thought it would.
There was a lot of fresh jokes,
yes.
which
especially starting the movie, there's a lot there that's from the trailer. Yep, that's from the trailer. That too. Oh, look, that's an extended version from the trailer. And then you finally get into the meat of the story, and that's when it starts getting good.
I would agree.
I wondered about that just because of the nature of the movie. It looks like it's one of those that you kind of had to give a big chunk of setup in that trailer.
And it's not
I wondered,
and Jeffrey Rush does the narration, right?
Yeah, I think
he does a phenomenal job. So, and the narration was very enjoyable. Luckily, they were able to keep it to a third of the movie, if that, maybe a quarter. So
I think a third, probably a quarter of the movie.
So and then as part of anniversary festivities, we went to Kansas City on Saturday and went to I just blanked on that. The Nelson Atkins Art Museum.
Ooh.
Neither of us had ever been.
Seriously.
Part of it seemed familiar, so I might have gone once before, but I don't remember it. So I'm counting it as neither of us had been. We really liked it. It was really neat.
Get your picture with the giant badminton bird.
We didn't go outside. We stuck to it inside. We were also kind of tight on time.
Were there still bowls?
Bowls?
There's a big thing up in the Chinese/Asian section of the upstairs. It just... I feel bad because I kind of breeze through that.
We breeze through a lot of that stuff,
It seems like it's nothing but bowls. And don't get me wrong, I mean, pottery can be pretty impressive. Yeah. But when you've seen one ancient bowl...
There's only variations on the thing.
Yeah.
We were much more taken by the paintings than anything else. Yeah. The sculptures were very nice, but the paintings were phenomenal.
I love the Frank Lloyd Wright stuff. Those are my favorite.
Sarah really likes the Renaissance era paintings, so we spent a lot of time there. And then the next day, we went back and went to the World War I Museum, the National World War I Museum. I did not know this. That's where it's at, Kansas City.
I don't think I knew Kansas City had the National World War I
Shortly after the war, they built this memorial, the first one ever in the country, and then they started building up the museum around it. It's really well done.
Where's that at?
It's in Kansas City.
Well, but
it's Liberty Memorial is what it's called.
Oh,
so
the big pillar on the hill.
Yeah, that big stone pillar.
I didn't realize that was World War I.
Yeah, that's World War I Memorial.
Okay, well then I've been there.
Yeah, it's a really nice museum. If you're ever in Kansas City, I highly recommend it. And if you're a big World War I buff or history buff, it'd probably be worth a trip to Kansas City just for, because as far as I'm aware, there's not a Smithsonian one. So this technically isn't, because it's not in the DC metro area, but it is the national one. It's one of the best museums I've ever seen.
Cool.
It's hands down phenomenal, better than some of the ones in DC. And then that night we watched Paddington, which was really cute.
Cute movie.
We really liked it. It's not one we'd go back and watch a lot. I agree with your assessment that Nicole Kidman was a little unnecessary.
Yeah.
And she was really the only weak part of it.
I don't know that I'd say she's unnecessary.
Well,
the direction they take her is unnecessary.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of those stories where you really don't need a villain.
Yeah, I would agree.
And it would have been just fine.
Because you get wrapped up in the self-discovery. You get wrapped up in the whole, transplanting him from the forest to the
getting a
civilization. Yeah,
story. That all that is so well done. We were really excited about the movie at first before it came out, because Colin Firth was going to be Paddington,
which I still thought he was when I saw it.
But I think Ben Whishaw, or whatever his name is, did a really good job bringing a youthfulness to him that I don't think Colin would have done.
I would agree.
So high marks, very, very high marks.
And Capaldi's
Peter Capaldi's great
in that, right?
No one else could have played that role but Peter Capaldi.
Yeah, he was good.
A curmudgeon-y neighbor. That's all you need. And he is fantastic. And then...
So vindicated, too, at the end. I love it.
Yeah. So good. I think that... My days are blurring now.
Remember, it doesn't matter when.
It doesn't matter when. The next big event was yesterday. We went and got a pup, which you guys probably, if you're friends with me or Sarah on Facebook, and you probably heard the jangling of the collar in the background, and possibly a little whining. He is in here in the living room with us, or the dining room with us. We got a Karen Terrier from the Pound, our local Pound, and his name.
He's a rescue dog.
He was a rescue dog. He was a runaway, and so a stray. So he had a collar on him, but the number was no longer good. And so they tried to get a hold, and they kept him. He was there since the 1st of August.
Aww.
And so he's about 5 years old, they say. We don't know, so believe
he
him.
doesn't look that old.
That's what I said.
But he looks older with the longer hair. If you go and look at the picture of me and Sarah with him, he looks older than he does now with the grooming.
He's got puppy feet.
He's got puppy face, too.
He's got puppy eyes. He really does. I'll try to post a picture here in a little bit on Instagram so you can see, because he's at the end of the table.
He's a cutie patootie is what he is.
So he was there since August 1st, and we'd been hemming and hawing about getting the dog for a while, and saw him pop up on their online stuff. I was like, let's go meet this one. We were thinking what would be a good anniversary present, and we decided a dog was it, and we are so happy with him. So his name's Cody. That was on his collar, so we didn't really decide to change that.
If he's 5 years old, you don't want to do that.
Yeah, he doesn't always respond to it, so I don't know. But we gave him the middle name of Ambrosius. For those that don't get the reference, that if you've seen Labyrinth, that's the sheepdog's name in Labyrinth. And so we were having a great old day, palling around with him, taking him to see my mom and my brother dog, her dog. And then we're on the way to meet my dad when we got in a car accident.
What happened?
We were at a stop sign. Both of us looked both ways. Didn't see anybody. Pulled out. I looked again. Saw SUV. And
4-way, or was it?
It was we only had the stop sign.
Okay.
So they did not have a stop sign. So luckily we weren't going very fast. They were going a bit faster. I couldn't form the word watch out, stop, or anything. I was utterly noises. And bam, hit the front quarter panel of the car.
Not quite a T-bone, but
not quite a T-bone, but pretty close, yeah. Knocked us up.
Driver's side, or?
Driver's side, yeah. And Sarah was driving, knocked us up quite a bit. Luckily, no one in the other car was hurt because they had a child and she was pregnant. So luckily, nothing bad there. Luckily, it was a bigger car. Unfortunately, our car is totaled. We think we're still waiting for the insurance to decide. And Sarah wound up with a concussion and a cut on the back of her head, which she initially didn't want to go to the hospital for. We finally, later in the night, convinced her to go, and it's a good thing we did because she wound up getting 4 staples for the cut on the back of the head. She lost consciousness for a little bit right at the beginning of the accident. That's why we're recording here, is because she's in recovery, and I didn't want to leave her alone for the night. So,
understandably.
Yeah, so today, unfortunately... Well,
last night you had to keep checking on her. I imagine she had a mild concussion.
They didn't have us do that.
Oh, they didn't?
But that being said, we got to the hospital a little after 9. We didn't get home until 4 a.m.
Oh, my.
Because there was the shift change, so doctor change, so we had to deal with that. They didn't want to send her home right away. Her symptoms got a little worse while we were there. Her pupils were 2 different dilations.
That's definitely a concussion.
Yeah, and then they had the head wound to deal with. The EMR or EMTs at the scene told us to put some liquid bandage on it, and they said, no, we really need staples. So they had to remove that and do the staples. And they did some x-rays on the arms and her foot and her neck to make sure there was nothing broken, because those were hurting pretty bad too. So all of a sudden, then we got home about 4 o'clock after getting the drugs and everything. So we got discharged a little after 3:15. Wow. So yeah, luckily our great pooch did not leave a mess of the house, because we wound up leaving him here while we were at the hospital. as kind of a trial run, and he did great.
He got to check things out. And
He did by himself and didn't. Nothing was disturbed. It was it's amazing. We are so blessed by this dog. He is one of the best behaved I've seen. So today has been a lot of dealing with some insurance stuff and her feeling better.
well, we're so glad that nobody was seriously injured.
Yeah. We are too.
Definitely.
Sorry to end that on a down note, but that was the end of
That's
the week.
Well, and for people who have been wondering, because I was a bit cryptic in our delayed
Yes.
post.
So now we get the fun process of finding out if it's going to get totaled and getting a new car, which Sarah is pretty upset just about the car aspect because she loved that car so much.
Yeah.
She'd had it for 11 years, too.
Cars can be replaced.
I keep telling her that.
I don't know if I have the strength to train a new newbie.
Yeah, either of us. Because if something had happened to her worse, yeah. But we got a very good pup, and he's been very loving and gives Sarah some kisses and as my mom calls it, doggy healing powers.
Doggy healing power.
Dog came along at the right time.
He really did, and luckily he wasn't hurt either because he was in the car. So
We have nothing but good news this week in the news section,
Yes.
so that'll bring us back up and give us a little bit more energy. So,
Thanks for putting up with us this week and being late.
Yeah.
We'd like to think we had good reason.
I think people are getting used to our podcast going out late, though.
Well, if you're relatively new to the proceedings, we'd kind of do this every week. So have your week and catch up and then delve into the Doctor Who. So
sorry, getting a picture of the dog.
No, that's
post on
right.
Instagram.
All right, let's move on to news.
We got a trailer on my birthday.
Yay!
Thank you, BBC, for that birthday present. Me and Dr. Phil.
It was good.
Oh, that's right. Happy birthday, Dr. Phil. I forgot
Happy
to mention
belated
that.
birthday.
And it was a good trailer. It was
It was
not
a really good trailer.
Not a teasing trailer, but kind
No.
of a full blown.
It was full blown. It was even more so than the last trailer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
full blown, full throttle. Here it is.
I didn't notice it until looking at some of the analysis. Did you guys see how many Daleks are in that scene?
Yeah, lots.
Everybody but the Paradigm.
Everybody went to Paradigm.
There's the classic black and blue.
Black and blue.
Gray
and blue.
Yeah.
It's gone, what?
There's so much Dalek.
Oh, there's colorful ones.
I didn't see
There's-
special weapons.
There's
Dalek.
ones that are very
There wasn't a
similar to
special
the
weapon.
movie Daleks, to the ones for the Cushing films, which will be interesting.
There's the black on black, the Scar ones, and the Emperor, and I didn't notice the silver and blue more.
We got a really, really good extended shot of the Skaro. Well, we presume it's Skaro, the
What
Dalek City.
we're going to say is Scar.
Yeah, because that looked gorgeous. It was
The
incredible.
entire trailer looked gorgeous.
I think this trailer also kind of silenced a lot of people's speculation about Maisie Williams. Is that right? Maisie Williams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the Susan stuff.
Yeah, the Susan stuff. Although now everybody's on the whole Ginny kick because Georgia Moffat visited the set
Oh, geez.
recently, and there were set pictures. So,
I didn't see those.
so everybody's
set
thinking
pictures.
that now they're on this whole train of thought that it must be Ginny. She's been
It's funny
She's
that-
been
Virginia.
went through regeneration. So.
It's funny they don't jump to those conclusions that somebody's going to show up when some of the old companions have gotten on set.
Yeah, well, I think
Like when Joe Grant was, or Katie Manning was
I
there.
think when
Or Carol Ford.
thank you, Caroline Ford, what had been on earlier in the summer, or maybe it was even late in the spring. That's what I think that fueled some of the
I think
speculation
she was there
about.
for filming Christmas.
I think
if
that.
I remember correctly.
Yeah, I think you're right. That fueled some of the speculation about Maisie Williams initially. So
Well, and Waris Hussein visited the set this week, so he must be
he
directing.
must be
episode.
directing.
Oh, yeah.
That must be,
absolutely.
you know.
I'm really excited about a lot of the new monsters, quote unquote, that we get in the trailer, and that there's not going to be so many. It's always great to see new creatures and monsters in the show, and it's not going back to the well all season.
Well, and it's one of those things. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm as excited as the next guy for a Dalek episode.
And another Zygon episode.
Or a Cyberman. But at the same time, it's like, when you think back on what New Who has really brought to the table...
You don't think of the classics.
I don't think of...
The actual new monsters.
Evolution of Manhattan. I think of the Silence. Evolution of Manhattan.
Oh, I was going to say,
I know what you meant.
rename that?
That's a machine of the
Maybe I got
right
maybe I got a concussion too. I just don't know. That one. I think of the Silence. I think of the
everyone thinks of Weeping Angels.
The Weeping
right
Angels.
Away.
I think of the whatever the thing was on the bed. I think of
the Dune
Slitheen.
to some extent.
To some extent, the Absorbaloff. I think of the ones that have come that have been like, all right, cool.
Are you okay with the cat-like people, or the cat-like person, because there's a precedence?
He breathes fire.
I'm assuming he's going to be part. What? That's a Greek god or a Greek creature that does that, doesn't it?
Is there? Then that would tie in maybe to. Well, is a Greek creature does it, or is it a Norse creature?
It could be a Norse,
because that might tie into the.
I'm just thinking of one similar that's got a tail of a snake, and
it's not a cat nun. Then
we did get it. No, a lot of people speculated that this. He looks more like a lion, like one of the big cats.
Okay.
I saw speculation that there may be connection to the cheetah people.
I saw that as well. Yeah.
It's a shame we just did Survival. That we can't do it again.
I think that would be cool. Yeah.
I think we need to retire Survival for a while. Even I, as wonderful it is, think we should retire Survival for a while. No, I haven't gone back. I mean, I watched it. I've watched it twice because I watched it once when it hit, and then I watched it with Mel when she got home from work. I was like, "You got to watch this." But then I was like, "Okay, I'm done." That's kind of my new thing. I don't want to go back and
since my second time. I've looked at pictures, but that's about it.
I'm kind of doing the same thing with Star Wars. I don't want to know. It's just like, okay, there it is. Don't show me anymore.
I think I watched it twice, and then I watched a YouTube breakdown.
Then there's Glenn,
a lot more fun.
Who devours everything about everything.
Well, there's been a lot of set reports.
Well, TARDIS Archive did a really cool breakdown of it, and and not really even going into speculation of who this might be or what it might, but kind of tying some of the evidence, or I don't want to say rumors, the confirmed information that we've gotten leading up to Series 9. There's been, this he kind of does this might relate to this might relate to this appears to be part of this, and that kind of.
Well, it's kind of the same thing they did with the poster that came out, and then there was this huge. Did you notice he's wearing checked pants? And it's like
the over-analysis of the face
the first
and
time that I saw the trailer, because we apparently see those checked pants in the first trailer, and I didn't even catch on until I saw somebody breaking down the picture that was posted, and I was like, "Oh, hey, that's cool."
And there's totally those faces in the fire in the last one.
That's definitely not. I looked again and went, "No."
Is that Timothy Dalton back there?
I think I see Rassilon coming.
Well, and then you guys saw this week that David Tennant and Paul McGann showed up in Cardiff.
I saw those speculations.
So there's some speculation that we're going to get a return.
Oh, please, oh, please, oh, please, oh, please, oh, please.
At least for the Paul McGann aspect.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, not that I wouldn't be thrilled to see David Tennant back again, but, that's Paul McGann. More Paul McGann.
More Paul McGann.
Although that really breaks the 26-year timeline that we've, established with his appearances. But
maybe it's exponentially getting smaller.
Or maybe he's only on screen for 3 minutes this time.
Well, but that also means less time between.
Oh, well, I'd be all right with that, too.
Yeah, that's true.
And then he gets a sustained level, and he's on screen all the time.
Looks like we're revisiting the Sisterhood of Karn, though. Did you see that?
I did see that.
I did not catch that.
Yeah, there's a shot of, it's kind of a side shot of, and we know that the actress that played the head sister in Night of the Doctor is, Night of the Doctor? Yeah, Night of the Doctor is returning this season, so there's a
I didn't know that either.
So there's a chance that
we don't know what role she's playing.
They haven't disclosed her role, but
she's probably the new companion. That would also be in keeping with Doctor Who tradition,
right? So anyway,
if you go digging into some of the Paul McGann and David Tennant stuff and the rumors on that, the Karn elements brings a fascinating aspect and possibly validity to those theories. Yeah, I'm not going to delve into that. That's all I'm going to say.
Well, in a way, that kind of ties in a little bit with the next piece of news that we've got, which is BBC has announced the Mission Dalek competition. And the basic gist of this is that they've put out a call for stories and little short films and just things that you can do and create digital. And there's actually a chance to win, if you live in the UK, a chance to go visit the set. Which I'm kind of bummed that I do not live in the UK. In other news, I'm moving.
Just so he can take part.
Just so I can take part in this. But the information is out there on the BBC website, or you can just Google Mission Dalek Competition. The basic gist of it is that it can be any kind of video, animation, some mashup digital artwork even, or graphic, up to 90 seconds in length. And what is the... Look for the clues in the Doctor's 2,000-year diary in this video as a starting point to create your idea.
So it needs to come from the video that they posted.
Once you've made your digital creation telling the story of how the Doctor comes to face the Daleks once again. So it's got to be a Dalek story with the Doctor. But
that's your criteria.
They're giving you all kinds of extra little bonuses that you can go and download and do these things too to put in there. So go look it up if you're an aspiring filmmaker or artist or whatever.
Maybe we should just do it for fun.
We should.
It'd be kind of cool.
I'm down.
Yeah, I'm for it.
Totally ready. But the reason that I think this might, in a way, tie in is apparently one of the things that, as I've heard, it's not spelled out here, but one of the things that I've heard that this is tied in with is Doctor Who's online presence and the idea that if you remember way back when Moffat dropped that little nugget of we'd like to do more storytelling in an online format.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So it makes me wonder if in some way, shape, or form, this isn't the let's give them the little whet the appetite because we're going to put all these online and show them. And then, we happen to have Paul McGann coming back to Cardiff to do a little something that might be, I don't know. I just,
You could be connecting two dots that might not connect.
That's true. I'm probably am, but
you never know.
My whole life is this dot's way over here. That one's way over there in the next county, but there's a line between them.
And occasionally it's Easter Saturday.
Occasionally it goes through Easter Saturday. So, yeah, we should totally come up with something.
Yeah.
So
put your heads together.
Put your thinking caps on, and we'll do the same. And everybody come up with a great story that we'll just flood them with fantasticness, and they'll go, "Wow, maybe we should open this competition to residents of the U.S. as well."
Yep.
That's all I had about that.
The last bit of news is recently Haley Atwell. If you don't recognize the actress, that's Peggy Carter to you. Was asked...
Agent Peggy Carter.
Agent Peggy Carter.
Or Cinderella's mom.
Duly earned.
Yes. Who appears to be dominating a dub smash war. Has recently been asked if she would love to be on Doctor Who. A role on Doctor Who. And she said, I would love to be Doctor Who. Yes. That's a female casting I can get behind.
I'd be all for that. I think she's a fine actress. Really, really enjoy her in all of the Marvel films she's done, and Peggy Carter or Agent Carter on TV.
And she really got a chance to flesh out Agent Carter on the TV show, so we know she has the great depth.
And it wouldn't be her first foray into Doctor Who because she was in that Big Finish audio.
That we reviewed.
Flip Flop. Is it that one?
Was she in Flip Flop?
It was something with Seventh Doctor and Mal.
The TARDIS wiki, hold on.
I'm sure we probably discussed this at the time that we reviewed it, and I am always amazed when these things come up 5 months later, and I'm like, were they in that? I suppose next you'll be telling me David Tennant was in Colditz.
I think it was Flip Flop. Was that the one that did?
No, it was Blood of the Daleks.
No, that's not the one I'm thinking of because we haven't done Blood of the Daleks.
Yeah, we have. That's the first of the Paul McGann Eighth Doctor adventures.
Yeah.
The two-parter where they're on Red Rocket Rising. Those poor people.
That's the one she was in.
Okay, well, she was in another one.
She's been in 3 total. Durmwood Curse, which we haven't listened to. No. Whispering Forest and The Sands of Life.
Oh, maybe I'm thinking of Blood of the Daleks then, that she was in.
You're always thinking about Daleks.
Daleks on the brain.
Pretty much. All right.
That's
well,
it for news.
let's move on to feedback.
Our last bit of our last and first bit of feedback.
First but not least.
First but not least. Last things first and first
Our
things
last,
last.
but not our. What? Say it again.
Our last and first.
And first. And timing.
Yeah. What do you expect from this podcast? Comment, question, hello. This is from Robert. Sorry to hear about the lay and about the accident. I'm sure we'll lay up the story on the show. Good to hear that no one was seriously hurt.
We should do that.
We will.
Wibbly wobbly.
Who says we record these in that order?
We'll now be studying for Friday's test on Monday before we've learned the material.
Now to my comments, which I would have sent earlier. I had my annual eye exam Friday, and my vision was off for a couple days because of that. Anyways, I saw the photo of Reese Shearsmith in costume with and without Mark Gatiss. The costume looks futuristic enough, but it also has two odd resemblances. One is that it vaguely looks something Avon, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, from Blake's Seven War. The other is a resemblance to the command staff uniforms worn by some of the main characters in the third or fourth series of Babylon 5. Not that I think there are any crossovers happening, it's just an interesting choice by the costume designer. Take care, see you at TopCon. Robert.
Thank you, Robert.
You're right, Robert. I have to be honest. I'm a bad sci-fi fan. I've never seen Blake 7. It's kind of been one of those that's been on my peripheral, but I've just never actually sat down and watched.
Either.
But I do recognize, I haven't watched all of Babylon 5 either, but I have a friend who was very big into Babylon 5, and you're right, those uniforms are similar. Probably not a crossover. But,
Likely not.
Inspiration at the very least.
Although, wouldn't that be cool? And I'm pretty sure somebody somewhere has footage that J. Michael Straczynski was in Cardiff this week. So, you know.
That's it for feedback.
Well, let's move on to our big event, which is a catch-up review of some of the Titan Doctor Who titles, and leading up to the big event that happened this week. So, where are we starting? 10th Doctor, number 10, correct?
Yes, sure. We will go in Doctor order.
And
then end with the big capstone of the fourth.
That's right. The title for this particular story arc was Echo.
Echo.
What did you guys think?
Echo. It's just your Echo sloth.
We'll do 10 and 11. We'll just do them together since we'll just do story arc. Or was this one-off?
This was
a one-off.
It
was a one-off.
This was a quasi one-off with a setup in the beginning.
There was a bit of a setup.
Yeah.
Not to mention you had to do a little bit of recall here because we're back with Gabby's family as well. So.
Yes.
Well, this is also the one that, for our long-time listeners that maybe remember that we started to think about trying to review this the last time we did a Titan episode and then decided we weren't going to. So we pulled the rug out from underneath you, but we're here doing it now.
I found it enjoyable, but at the same time, it felt reused.
Yes, exactly.
It felt very similar to, at least in ideas, of the launch stories.
Yeah. The ones with the things that you couldn't see, but they were there, and then they had the ones that had come through the dimension that were chasing those.
Yes. It's very, very similar. I mean, they took new approaches to it, but it's still almost the same story. Yeah. It's just Gabby's already in companion mode, and there are these little.
I hadn't thought of that, but it felt familiar, and so that's probably where it comes down on for me is remembering that particular story.
Yeah, and that's, I think, its downside is that it's too familiar.
Yeah,
that there's nothing surprising about it. It kind of goes the path you expect. It's enjoyable, but it's just kind of there for me.
Would it have made a difference if that other, or if this story hadn't been a 10th Doctor one, that maybe we wouldn't have quite drawn such a strong parallel to it?
It would have helped a lot.
I really enjoyed the artwork. I think the artwork was good.
Yeah. I think that's part of why it's familiar. It's the same artist from the first ones.
Oh, is it?
I'm pretty sure.
I like the paneling too. How it's not the typical square paneling. It's got a lot of different, edges and curves and slants and designs and some black backgrounding for the panels, and then turn around, there's some white paneling although, you know what just occurred to me? It's when the echo stuff is actually happening is when... Well, no, because this is a white background panels. Anyway, I really like the choices of colors and style that they took with it as well.
It's nice that they change up some of the background pages, that are black and white, like,
Oh, I think you're right. I think it's it's white until the Doctor makes the sound legible, basically, that it's a cry for help. Those panels are all black.
Yeah. Well, and if you'll notice the
up
bubbles,
until they're in the TARDIS.
The bubbles for the creatures that are on the little weird spider-looking things that are actually running these things down, the good things down.
Oh, it's black.
You actually see it's white lettering on black bubbles for their speech, which is cool.
Maybe it's just because these are the action panels.
Could be. Could very well be.
You think you'd put some of the climax on that way too, and because there's action in the climax.
Terrible cover though. The cover that came with the digital copy that we got. I did not like the alternate cover. I really do like, because I think this is the first time you get a chance to see what Gabby would look like.
The
photorealism.
I think they had an actress step in for those.
Oh, the photo covers.
Yeah,
and I'm normally not a big fan of photo covers. I don't know if I've mentioned that on the show or not, but I kind of feel like it's a comic book. I want a picture. I don't want a picture. Draw me something.
In this particular case, I liked it better. I liked the.
But I agree. The cover is terrible with just the Aquaman.
The doctor like covering his ears. Is that what he's doing?
It seems like it.
Sure.
Starting to cover his ears. Yeah, I wasn't too impressed with the cover, but
I like
the artwork inside and the story is pretty decent. So.
I like the characterization building for Gabby, and how because this is right on the heels of the Angel stories.
Yeah.
So she has just gone through this very traumatic experience, and so the first thing she wants to do is run home and check in on her family. I like that that's part of her character, because that stays in line with how we were introduced to her.
Yep. Now, that was the only 10th Doctor we did, right?
That was the only 10th Doctor.
Okay, so moving on to 11.
Cranking it up to 11.
Number 12, right? We start with number 12.
We're starting with number 12.
Which I do like the cover for this one. No, I take that back. The alternate cover I like a lot. The cover for the actual story is pretty good, but I think it's misrepresentative, because they didn't... Only the comet itself crashed. The TARDIS didn't. But I suppose it gives you the impression that the TARDIS crashed as well. It fell heavily to the ground, but you don't see the comet in the open, which is a little deceiving. But
12, right? Yes,
12.
My thing with covers, pretty much, is I don't trust them. I've had them lie to me so many times that it's just a pretty artwork that they're going to put on the cover that might tie in. It's kind of nice if they do, but most of the time they're not going to.
Yeah, it's true.
This page
I don't know how
might be
many
in
Buffy
here.
comics I picked up when they started season 8, and the cover had nothing to do with what happened in the story. They're just like, this would be really awesome. Spike's on the cover. He's not in the story.
That this might be in here. It might not be in here.
This one was this story arc is called Conversion, and this is part 1 of that story arc.
I really enjoyed this story arc, and really I enjoyed the rest of 11's run.
I think it was a bit hit and miss, because I like the setup for this. I like the idea of the comet. I especially like the fact that in history, Constantine essentially took control of the army at a battle with what's his name, Maxentius. There was this actual battle at this bridge, and Constantine and his men saw this vision, and they believe now, historically, they've gone back and looked, and they believe that it was a comet at the time, or a meteorite that had gone down, and it actually caused this massive explosion as well, and a pillar of fire. And it's believed that that was enough to convince Constantine's men that he was... Because he was the one that wanted to convert everybody to Christianity. He was ready to do away with the old gods. Constantine was going to establish Christianity in Rome. And this was one of the pinnacle events that really drove his troops to get behind him and really believe that he was actually doing the will of God. Oh. And so I really like how they've tied this in now to Doctor Who, and that this is potentially the event that happened that accompanied the fact that Constantine... Now, it goes a little differently, because I get the impression that they sort of join forces against the Cybermen horde that's coming at the end. But Maximus, what did I say his name? Is his men actually perish?
We're going to call him Maximus.
Maximus.
It's Russell Crowe.
That's such a
Maxentius.
Maxentius.
I just love the cliffhanger of the first episode.
Oh, I knew you would.
The reveal of the
as soon as
Cybermen,
I turned to that
"Ooh!"
page, I went. And here's what's even better about this:
It was such a good reveal, though.
is that this is zombified Cybermen because the entity has
It's
zombified
taking
all of them.
over
It's
them.
taking
Yeah.
their bodies over. I thought that was really, really clever.
It's a great way to bring in a familiar monster and do something new with them.
Yeah.
Well, and I like how they give us this tiny little hint at the beginning when Jones makes the comment about the dinosaurs being wiped out by a comet.
Yeah. Because they're trying to place
almost-
when this is what's going on. What
You almost
cataclysmic
buy
event.
into it.
You almost think, oh, this is
The Adrix in
Yeah,
there
Adrix
somewhere.
should- yeah.
And then the doctor immediately
But the time
dismisses
period's
it because
too
the time
early.
period's
Yeah.
too early and there's Rome.
too
and
late.
and here's Romans. And so you're like, oh, okay. And then you go along. And then the Cybermen do show up.
they pulled the bait and switch.
I think what's really cool too is the idea that this comet would have been a cataclysmic event, but by the Doctor kind of jerry rigging the trajectory of it, it was able to be kind of more of a localized cataclysmic event instead of a global event. So that was pretty cool.
I tell you, for me, the big kicker here is Rob Williams' writing. He has so nailed the 11th Doctor's voice for me.
I agree.
Just the little things, like we're on the motorcycle, we're zooming toward the thing, and Jones is going on about his song cards, and then starts, what does the Doctor say? Not enormously pertinent right now. Drive into the wormhole. Ah, far better, a more specific strategy card, that one. What are the odds? That's serendipity, that is. And it's just, there were so many of those kinds of moments. It's like, this is the 11th Doctor right here. He's so in his element.
I would agree. Until the next episode.
All right, Jones, no need to shout in German. I'm going as fast as I can.
When they're writing on the wall, the Berlin Wall.
Yeah.
And when he comes back with his face frozen from being outside, and he's the comment. What? So yeah, there was so much about that it was like, and it's been a while since we've had a. I'm trying to think. Certainly not on TV. We've not done a whole lot of quote unquote historicals.
No, not like this.
And so that's
And not in the 11th round.
Yeah, not in 11th round. So this, in a way, it felt like a huge departure because we don't have anything like this. But then what I thought was interesting is in the next episode with the zombified Cybermen, it's like we're still dealing with this. This is all still part of the same through line.
Right,
it's just that it's different time, different
it's
place.
It's very reminiscent, partially because of the Romans. Pandora opens Big Bang.
Yeah, in a way.
Because you're dealing with a historical setting at one, and then kind of while they're still in the historical setting in the second one, right? They don't change the location.
No. Yeah, because issue 13, is that right? Yeah. Which
13.
I finally love the cover that's on the beginning. Again, has nothing to do with it because he
so
never
clever.
dresses as a Roman, but I do love the little gag on there that says Rory Williams, or eat your heart out, Rory Williams, and he's dressed as a Roman soldier.
And the other two in the
That was
background
pretty
very confused. Why are we dressed like Romans?
cool. Well, what was most confusing is because they're dressed like Romans, and then in the story they're not ever dressed like Romans. So that's what was confusing to him. I do like that the entity kind of creates this illusion of something else, projects something that would gain the trust of the enemy, of the soldiers. And in the first set, it's the gods of old, or the goddesses, I should say, of old, and they're taken over. This is where we finally see the TARDIS drop out of the sky after it's broken free from the comet, but then power just gone. I think my problem with this story is the Doctor gets a little too mopey for me. I think this is the one because
he kind of switches to the dark, grumpy, mopey Doctor.
Yeah,
and
he's
kind of
because he's regretting what he did his conversion in the story arc before this, where he was
The head of Serviu.
the head of Serviu Inc. And
that's what we're dealing with the fallout of.
yeah, and I'm okay with the Doctor doing some soul searching and feeling some remorse or regret, but he almost gets just a little too far.
It's more in the next issue that I feel that
Is it
gets
then?
that way. That's the one where he's moping outside the TARDIS.
Oh, that's right, because at the end of this one, the TARDIS won't let him back in. That's right. Yeah, that's the one that I think I'm thinking of.
See, this one I kind of felt like, in a way, almost missed a trick, that we maybe wrapped it up too quickly. When he gives the statement, the entity with the might of a cyber army, an army that now shows you what your heart wants most as they attack. That's unstoppable.
Oh, yeah.
And he's just, oh, no, I can't deal with this right now. And just the thought of that. You wouldn't, I mean, think about this. An army that comes in and just goes, this is what you want.
Yeah. There'd be no resistance.
Yeah.
That's one of the
That's
one of the great
terrifying.
things I liked about this one.
And it's not a Dalek threat. Forgive me, Glenn. Where they're projecting this image and then they come in and shoot everybody.
Right.
This is so they can convert you.
This is going to be a conversion. We assume that even though they're not.
I don't even know that it was going to be a conversion, because I think if it was going to be a conversion, I guess in a way it is. But
I think they needed to stop resistance before they could start conversion.
Well, the blue soldiers, I mean, they essentially take over
Yeah.
the body. They don't. There's no Cyberman conversion. The entity
it's the
takes
entity doing
over.
it, yeah.
So it's more of a zombified than it
yeah.
is a conversion to cyber technology.
But just if we were on Walking Dead and you didn't want to fight back,
Yeah.
just, come get me,
Right.
come eat me.
Exactly.
Just that whole idea is very.
And they do take over Jones at one point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which, it's this one that we lose Jones at the very end.
Yes. I do like the ruse, though, that the
That
entity,
using the arc
using the arc to make him look
think.
like he's been zombified by the entity as well, and then implanting his memories, his not memories, but basically taking control because of his stored memory and emotions. That was kind of cool.
And I did find interesting the end of Alice being so, what did you just do? And not having seen this side of this Doctor before.
Yeah.
Because it is in line with, well, he gets mopey in the next issue. What he did wasn't very in line with not only the Doctor, the 11th Doctor, of doing whatever it takes to save so many people.
Right. Agreed.
And her shock of, oh my gosh, you did what? And what about Jones? And
That is one of the things that.
Alice grounds this whole arc so well.
Well, and this particular linchpin of the story justifies the speediness with which we wrapped up this particular part of the arc.
Yeah, I would agree.
Because the comment that I just made is like, wow, you came up with this phenomenally unstoppable villain, and then we didn't really dwell on them.
And then you stopped them.
But then you stopped them in
Pretty much right away.
right away, logical, needed to happen, and you did it in such a way that it wasn't it wasn't a big gun that you came up with. You came up with this ideology that is what, broke it down and stopped it. But at what cost? And it was just like, oh man, the gut punch of this when Alice says, so they all saw, what? They each saw a god of their own choosing. What happens now? What happens when one of them says, my God is real, and I saw it, and the other says, no, my God is real, and I saw it? How many wars start then? And the Doctor's simple response of, I can't be everywhere.
Yeah.
Just devastating.
I think it's the cool thing about Alice's statement there too is the fact that she makes a statement that resonates through Earth history. I mean, how many wars have been started over the belief system of one army versus another? I mean, there's been hundreds. And so, we've had the Crusades, we've had, even
We're still
today,
fighting that.
we're still fighting that type of war. And I think I like the fact that the Doctor says I can't be everywhere at once, because it's almost as if each of those wars are kind of a fixed point that really they have to play out the way they do, and the Doctor realizes that. But the gut punch is the fact that you realize that the Doctor can't do anything about it, and
that he's the one that started it.
Exactly,
Well,
exactly.
And it also speaks to human nature so much that even the Doctor's meddling can't prevent that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Because he can't be everywhere at once, and that's what humans do.
Yeah.
We fight wars over gods that people believe in and others don't, and it's just an impactful scene. And then the very end of the Doctor, where's Jones? I don't know. And then that I didn't realize. I kind of had forgotten until that line of Jones was mixed up with the crowd, and then it's just oof.
Well, partly because we get such a quick resolution to it that, and there's they returned to the cyber ship, they repaired it, they flew away. They're like, oh, don't come here, and just everything's ta-da. That's the
the other shoe drops.
Yeah, exactly. And it's interesting, too, that for as good, I don't want to say as good, as detailed and rich as the artwork was in the previous issue, that this one is not. It's very stark. It's very barren. And part of that, I imagine, is the artistic choice, because we're dealing with what has now been comet blasted. There's a reason for it.
Even avoiding what they did.
But I think it lends to the story punch.
Well, and it starts off almost the same color saturation, and as the story progresses, just gets darker and darker and bluer and bluer.
Yeah, it very much reflects the image of the storytelling and what's happening in the story. And then we move to another story arc called The Comfort of the Good, which I thought had a lot of potential. And then they started it off with a very mopey, regretful Doctor, and then the TARDIS runs off. And I thought, nobody's really ever kind of
that's a new thing.
Tackled this.
He's lost her before.
Yeah.
He's flushed her out airlocks, dropped her off airplane dirigibles, bobbed her in the ocean.
But never has she gone off and she left on her own.
Not that I'm aware of.
Interesting. And even more interesting is the fact that the TARDIS is gone, and he sort of explains that when a TARDIS, no longer can trust the Time Lord, it goes off to find the next Time Lord. It goes off to find another Time Lord.
Yeah.
Which begs the question, where do you go when there are no more Time Lords? And I think that's answered really well. And I actually like the direction they went with that. That the TARDIS went to the next closest thing it could associate to a Time Lord, and that's the what's the guy's name? I always want to say that. Yeah, I always want to say caretaker. It's the talent scout. Yeah, who is masquerading as a Time Lord. But once we got these first half a dozen pages or so, I thought it was kind of cool how they're using Entity in order to connect to Jones, who is in some sort of astral or metaphysical world at this point, because he had been overtaken. I thought that the visualization of that was really good. Just the soaring through, and then enjoying
this
things.
2-page.
Yeah, really
gorgeous.
Yeah. Gorgeous. Well, he starts off in some attic somewhere with a doctor.
Why does he have a scarf?
Doctor's scarf. Yeah, I thought that was bizarre, but
a nod.
Now, is there?
I think it is. I think it's a nod. Yeah.
Is there a David Bowie fan who can go, no, Bowie wore a scarf just like that on stage, or is it just a nod?
And then he steps out of this cloud ship after he's been contacted and returned.
There's been some nice references leading up to that.
What the heck is that?
To The Man Who Fell to Earth.
Yes.
The film Bowie
And I know
made.
that's what they're going for, but
I don't know how close that design. I've never seen the movie.
Has Jones? No, it is. It's very similar. But has Jones got? That's my problem with it. Is if it's simply a nod, it doesn't work well because he looks very alien in this.
I got the impression that he was absorbed. So the astral plane stuff, he had been absorbed into the entity.
Okay.
And so this is him being melded with the entity coming out of it.
And so
the Jones part of him coming out, and that's all the tubes and extra stuff, and why he looks so weird and different. That's the
he's sort of carrying the entity.
He still has the entity with him.
I'll buy that.
It's still a part of him at this point.
The problem that I have is they finally drive home the chameleon aspect of Jones, which really kind of fixes a lot of my problems with every comic book. He's in a different character, a different outfit. But I've always thought that was still more of a grounded, down-to-earth idea that he's a chameleon, and he changes outfits and costumes and things like that, which to me is very David Bowie in retrospect as well. But when it comes out like this, I thought, now, are they trying to drive home the fact that now he's gone through some sort of transformation where he really is a chameleon? Or am I reading more into that than what? And maybe
I didn't pick up on
Keith's
that.
explanation is even better than what I was trying to reach for at some point.
Because what he says also when he comes out, I sang to it, Doctor. I sang a song about love's such an old-fashioned word, about caring for things, about the edge of the night, and how this is our last dance. This is ourselves. nice Queen reference.
Queen and Bowie.
Yes,
that's also a Bowie song.
And then Joan saying we like the song, or Ark saying we like the song. Yes, you did. Now the entity realizes now that we're not after it. It was the two mind melding together to make the entity no longer combative.
Okay,
Yes.
I'll buy that. I like that. That's good.
They
That settles my...
They
formed a
healed each
symbiotic-
other.
Yeah.
They formed a symbiotic relationship.
Yeah, that helps. I like that. Good show, Keith. Good show.
And
Thank you.
the man who fell to Earth, there's no spaceship.
Right.
Okay.
You don't see
I've
the
been tempted
spaceship.
to watch it several times, and
fell to
it's
Earth.
very tricky.
Oh, yeah. You might have to do some stuff that looked like the spaceship in order to get it. But
I did not. Glenn, you mentioned how you kind of liked how it ended. I did not like the very last panel, the very last page,
Why not?
because I have not been the subscriber of that woman was the Doctor's mother.
That was going to be my question for you.
They
Do you
fixed it
think
and
this woman looks like the woman that's in the end of
They
end of
want
time?
us to think that.
They want us to think that.
I think they want us.
See,
to
I
think that.
didn't think,
I think
she
they
so
did it-
much did.
I
look
think
like
they
that
drew
woman.
her well enough,
Especially
that
when you go
could-
into the next story and you see this panel.
Let me get to that panel.
I don't think, for
I'm
me,
trying to remember the end of time. a bit
I'll be
better.
honest.
She didn't have gray hair for one thing.
Okay, that's a good point.
She was a brunette.
I
She was an
never-
older woman, but she obviously cluttered.
I never associated this particular physical image with that woman.
The image.
Okay.
But
the
I've
woman
also never 100% bought into even though it's been
It's always
all
been
but confirmed.
well. It's always been very heavily and with some good authority speculated.
Didn't RTD flat out say it in the writer's tale?
He says in
I think
the
so.
writer's tale that was the implication he was
It was
trying to
intended.
give. He never actually out and out says it was his mother.
Ah.
He said he says everything but say
Yeah.
it was actually his mother.
So I immediately thought of her, and so I wasn't very pleased with that because I've never subscribed to that idea. Now you do bring up great points that I can excuse, and I can also just kind of wave it away because it is the talent scout behind it,
Yeah.
and so he could have. Who knows where he got that image
Well,
from?
and I'm fine with the. I've talked about this before, and when we delve into some of the side or what they call side steps in the book universe, that crew went so far as to say that you're really not born of. In Time Lord society, after a certain point in their history, in their ancient history, they no longer could reproduce. And so what they did is they created a loom system, and you were
kind of like a Man of Steel.
you were plucked off of a loom, and that was your birth. They had devised a way to continue society, and between the loom and the regenerations, that's part of the reason why Time Lords are granted.
What an
regeneration.
interesting idea.
I don't know that much about it
Zack
other than the
Snyder's totally
peripheral
lifted it.
reading that I've read, but it's heavily drawn upon in Lungborough, which we'll eventually get to. Unfortunately, that's at the very end of it. But it was sort of dropped and built upon throughout that. Unfortunately, by doing
Just the
something
idea
like
of the thread
this,
of life and I
but
like the imagery of
by
that.
doing this, that's completely a step away. But we can't just say this is the only time they've stepped away from that, because of the fact that the Doctor in New Who has dropped the idea that, well, I was a father once, I was a grandfather once. But in the Listen episode just last season, the Doctor is a young boy, is in bed, and you hear his parents. I think we're even led pretty solid evidence that it's his parents. So they've sort of done away with that sidestep idea.
In that sidestep idea,
not to mention we see the Master as a young child in series 3.
So in that idea, were they plucked out as fully grown?
So yeah, that I don't know. I believe yes.
Because
I believe the answer is yes to that.
If they were infants when they were plucked out, they could be given to surrogate families, and it could be adopted parents.
Something that I read implies to me that they were full grown by the time
could
they
also,
left
if you want to try and make your headcanon accept both, and
there could be lineage in there somewhere.
I hate to go to Man of Steel for this. Maybe one of the reasons the Doctor himself is such a renegade is because he does get it from his parents, that maybe he was natural born versus other Time Lords that...
And I've seen that implied in speculation as well. So.
Maybe it's not that Time Lord Society says you can't reproduce, but there's one of those you shouldn't because
obviously
we want to do it this way.
We've gone down a path that we know very little about because we'll get there eventually. But there's also some
This is a deep rabbit hole.
There's also some implications that the Doctor is as old as Rassilon and Omega as well. But we'll delve into that when we do some of the sidestep stuff. Anyway,
but back to this. You're right. I don't necessarily buy that this is his mother.
Right.
But it was fine enough for what it was.
I have to accept the fact that the talent scout must have taken his mother's true form because he recognizes her.
Yeah, he calls her mother, questioningly. But
I have to imagine this is what his mother would have looked like. If he enough qualifies it by saying mother at the end of that story and believing it for the first part of this story, or somewhat believing it for the first part of this story, or believing that image was his mother, then I have to accept the fact that again, the comics aren't within the grounds of continuity either. For the most part, technically, they're their own sidesteps. But I think we take continuity within the comic books a little more seriously now than we do some of the stuff in the past that was done.
Yeah,
other media
because they're trying harder.
A lot of this is these are going congruently. These are going congruently with the series, with the BBC's blessing, and the congruent
or concurrent.
Okay, they're going concurrent. They're going whatever the proper word is.
They'll be doing both.
Okay, they're going concurrent to what's happening in the real with the series right now, whereas the materials that were done in the Wilderness years, when you include comics and books and anything else, everybody was having their own ideas and branching out, and they just held on to a license. Whereas I think there might be a little more oversight to the comics nowadays, even though they also have a license and a bit of liberties with it as well. I think there's a little more oversight so that they aren't completely...
It would have been an interesting question for maybe Paul Cornell in that how do you, when you sit down to write for a comic book that is licensed as Doctor Who is, knowing that you're coming up with something that you're telling this great story, but that there's that kind of overlooming, it's not canon, is that maybe something frustrating that you have to fit it within this particular set of guidelines? You're only allowed to tell this kind of story, this kind of story, this kind of story, because you can't flat out contradict anything in the show.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you have to play within this ballpark, but at the same time...
some things you write could later be contradicted.
I also think that the team that works on the comic books probably are self-policing so that they don't come up with something so far out there that it would be hard to explain or at least figure out a way to tangibly connect the two. So
yeah, and I don't think you'd want to. I think that would probably hurt the comic more.
We're also now delving into this a little deeper than we should too, because this is really just a few pages later resolved when it's shown that it's the
well, he even says, you're no Time Lord. You're not my mother either. You're just a talent scout taking another shape. That's on page 3.
Yeah.
So it's a quick, turnaround that he was hit with that imagery. And honestly, it wasn't until that line that my brain made the genuine connection that this is the Time Lord who showed up all the way back in issue 1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That there was like,
It was the Talent Scout posing at the time.
And
Agreed.
kind of, again, being reminded that we're still dealing with this one narrative thread that has run through. And then it hit me how geniusly this is written. Because that's all Matt Smith's seasons were. We're
absolutely.
following through with that. We're still dealing with this, with the crack, or with this, or with the... Now we're dealing with the Talent Scout. And here it is in episode 1, and you didn't see it, but it was there all the way up through the end. And I just went, wow, this is so cool.
I think the other thing that I think that this was really kind of a capstone for the whole story arc for that reason, and for the fact that I think Alice, for the first time, is now getting to see she has been going through with her mother recently dying. She's now getting to see that through the Doctor, and I think that's why they're flipping it, and I think that's why they really put the Doctor through that very harsh, mopey, being so down on himself and so down on
having him turn being bad with.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's one of those things that Alice is actually getting a lesson out of this as well. And I think that by the time we get to the end of this, we've come full circle with Alice's character as well, as far as that initial storyline that we'd set up with her at the very beginning. Because she was very emotionally damaged. She was very mopey. She was very, not ready to step out of her comfort zone. She was, and now it's really given Alice a chance to kind of come to terms with it. I'm sorry. Spit on you. Come to terms with everything that has happened to her in her life leading up to this.
I loved the when he's just standing there in the rain, devastated after having been thrown out. And what else could he do, Doctor? I need you to do something for me. When I say run. And just the complete flip that she's now.
They've switched roles.
Such a nice job with that.
And not just for the craziness of running. But the idea of, I've lost everything, I've lost my home, why are we running? Because you've had your world fall down, and I know it's hard to get back up again. But I know you, Doctor, and you think on your feet. Did Moffat get a byline? This so sounds like Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Which gives him the idea.
Who was this? This was Al Ewing, Rob Williams, Simon Fraser, and Gary Caldwell. They all came together for this one. Really worked this one out. And as far as the Alice closure as well, I think it was really cool that he took her back to that night where his mom was watching Jones perform. I thought that was so amazing.
And I'm pleased with how they dispatched the Talent Scout.
Yep.
I think they wrapped it all up.
And wrapping Ark's story up as well.
Yeah.
By making the entity one again.
It turns out that they were, part of that same...
Right.
And it again, full circles everything, and it's really well...
It just wraps absolutely everything up.
There are no holes.
And leaves so Alice open to continue.
It could have easily been a rush job to finalize things before the four Doctor event comes out. But it doesn't feel like that. It feels like they really had this 15 story, that's right. 15 story arc set up, and they really had it outlined. And then they just kind of filled the gaps in as they went with interesting storytelling. And so I kudos to the team for being able to place that together. That was really good. And the fact that Alice decides that she is ready to travel. She's not
I love how it ends on that optimistic note of we're moving forward, we're getting past this, we're doing great things together. It gets her out of. I think the next season, if you call them these seasons, it will really give Alice a chance to be a more full-fledged companion.
Agreed.
Whereas we
won't have all that emotional baggage that we were dealing with.
Yeah, we won't. It's kind of like Amy in season 6. While there's some emotional baggage, she's a bit more companion.
Agreed.
Or Clara in season 8, where there's emotional stuff that's going on with her, but the plot element of hinging on her is moved on.
Agreed.
I am...
Which she was such great emotional level, and I hope they continue that, her being the emotional balance in the run.
I have nothing but very, very high praise for Alice through this whole run. She's been great, and I like the fact that she's an older companion for not Not evil and old, but just that she's older than what
I
we.
think Evelyn would take offense at that.
That's true. Not what we've come to get, but
Middle-aged
thing.
middle-aged companion.
Yeah.
There, Russell. We'll say it that way. Now, I do have one
She's
nitpick
our age.
on the
Our
artwork.
groups.
I liked this. I liked it all the way around. I thought it was very good. However, there's this one panel right before when the Doctor's getting the TARDIS back and he's doing the mind meld with her. And we get this kind of great twofold where it's everybody tumbling out of the TARDIS.
Mm-hmm. I know what your complaint's
Do you
going to
know
be.
what my complaint is?
I know exactly what your complaint's going to be.
Look closely at that panel. There's no Paul McGann.
Wait, there's a body. Hold on.
Zoom in on your monster tablet there. Oh, all the way...
Between 5 and 9, there's a tiny little body.
Oh, all the way in the back.
If we assume this is 10, not
Yeah.
11,
No, that's definitely 10.
that's got to be
9. That's 7 because of the umbrella.
8,
6, 5, 4,
4,
3, 2, 1. All right, he's got to be 8 then.
Yeah.
He's in there. He's just really small.
All right, I'll retract my
Tiny,
complaint.
tiny.
We can complain that he's so small.
Yeah. Paul McGann's a small man.
I was noticing that he wasn't there either.
Yeah, I see him now. Yep.
And it wasn't until zooming in.
I wasn't happy about that.
All right, so he's going to retract. He's going to retract it slightly.
I'm going to retract it slightly. Well, because it almost felt like what are you trying to say? You trying to say that Doctor Who the movie's not continuity? And I was all set and ready to have that argument with this artist. I had a letter drafted, but okay, so I'll retract that.
Anything else about?
I don't think so. Let's move on to 12.
We have done the first two
We have done,
listed.
We had a couple listed on the schedule. And we later realized that we had actually done what
I did that for our listeners' benefit if they want to go back and relist.
We
them,
certainly
or
could
reread
recap
them.
it just a
I
little
went back
bit.
and
but
reread
I
the
think
first two just to
I
make
did
sure I was
too.
fresh on it.
Because the third story in this one is a wrap up of the first two, which we didn't have at the time of our last time we reviewed. So, but I did the same. And
I liked how the story and the art. There was a lot I liked about this.
yeah, I'll tell you what I really liked is the fact that we had a sort of realization that things had to play out the way they are. That the dad had to go back to his universe, and that
Yes.
in order for things to be right. And I love that 12 of all people said, no, we don't.
we can make it work.
We'll make it work.
Well, and with taking it on himself.
Yes.
I will make sure this works, and yeah.
Well, which even to the last of saying that. What do you say? We did well. No, wait, that's not it. Where's it at?
Well, while you look that up, just as kind of as a brief recap, where we last left our cast of players is we had the astronaut who had lost his family and figured out that through the multiverse, he was a physicist, that's what it was, that he could break through into our dimension and find out that the same family had lost him.
Yeah.
So he was kind of hoping that this would become this. And then there are these entities, the fractures, which are kind of like the Reapers from alternate.
From the void.
Well, from the void. From
They're
the
actually
time.
from the void,
I mean,
yeah.
like the Reapers from the time that are coming in to police stuff up. That the fractures are the ones from the void that are trying to keep things apart. And that, well, it's not actually going to work as well as we thought it would. He thought it would anyway, because now things are well, all void is breaking loose.
All void is breaking loose.
I really liked, because in issue 2, the Doctor kind of abandons everyone and goes to deal with some things, including the spacesuit.
Yeah.
By dropping it into a star. And I absolutely, probably one of my favorite panels of the entire run is the one of his eyebrows, and then we are in even greater danger than I thought.
Almost the exact same shot.
They did such a good job.
Day of the Doctor.
It.
Oh, yeah.
I've enjoyed the art in this so much throughout it, and that was just like, oh yes.
I actually found it. It's when the Doctor finally sonics the gap closed and leaves the dad on this side. And it's Kate asks him, I don't understand. How does this resolve the situation? Won't the fracture just come back for him? And then you get the fracture and he says, no, kind of a flashback. No, oppose us and all the power of existence will be against you, Doctor. And the Doctor says, no, not for him. So we know that there's going to be some repercussions. Now the Void police are actually going to be tracking the Doctor now. So the dad and the family will be safe, but the Doctor now has opened a door that he'll be running from for quite a while. And it also gives us an opportunity next season to bring the Void back in and actually continue. For all of these that really kind of closed out their arcs, we don't know so much with 10 yet because we still haven't gotten
and we're not quite done with 12s either.
Right. Well, yeah, but they obviously don't show up in the next story.
Yeah, but we don't know what's coming after.
That's what I'm saying is, 12 has more season to go? I thought they were done with 12. They were going to start. I thought they were rebooting everybody, or not rebooting.
I got the impression everyone got a 15 episodes.
Yeah, everybody's, I think. Okay. Well, unless they're counting the 5.
The 5.
That's what I sort of wonder.
Doctors.
There's 5 4-Doctor stories.
Well, I wonder maybe if they're going to count those as part of his.
That's what I was speculating.
Yeah, I didn't think.
But
about
anyway,
that.
It sounds like something that will carry over into his next, if we're calling him season for or maybe even down the line when we least expect it. So
it was great to see Kate show up.
Yep. Again.
Her and Clara has such great chemistry.
They really
together
do.
In this.
I think what this
especially when they're standing there with she has the gun and I've got my Sonic and she's like, well, she almost doesn't trust Clara, even though she should at this point.
I think what this does is satisfactorily gives us a reason that Clara has a picture of her in unit headquarters.
Kate has a picture of Clara in the Black Archive.
Clara, yeah. In the Black Archive.
I need to go. I want to go back and look and see if it's the same outfit.
You have to presume this takes place either before Day of the Doctor or shortly after, but not after.
Well, we get
Death
the line
in Heaven because
it's definitely before Death in Heaven
because Osgood has just switched. She's name dropped and she has just.
So this
switched
is after
to the
Day of the Doctor.
Yeah,
so. Because they talk about that
right,
in the first part of the second issue.
So clearly, Clara would have gone and had more contact with Kate in order to get a picture, so she would have a picture. Although if this takes place between, this wouldn't have been an instance for them to get a picture.
I'd love to see them do that in the comics. If they eventually jump to 11 and Clara's story, that could easily do what they do.
Of course, it certainly would. I think if they do it, they should do it in such a vague fashion that it can be accepted, so that when Moffat leaves that string dangling back, we can say, okay, if he leaves it dangling, then we can say, well, here, the comics fix that. If he does resolve it, they do it vague enough in the comics that it doesn't conflict with what Moffat decides to do.
So speaking of some of our favorite panels, the one where he's giving the backstory of the Rassilon cube.
Yeah.
And the looming image of Rassilon behind him. Or Isolation Cube is what they are.
The art in this is just incredible.
Kate calls it so you trapped him in a Rubik's Cube.
And I love...
And it felt very much like the end of Flatline. How the Doctor resolves the issue.
Yeah, he tries really hard to talk to him.
Yeah.
And I love his comment on it. Fiendishly difficult to escape from. Took me the better part of 6 months. Someone locked you up in one? I can't imagine why.
This writer got 12's voice down so well.
That's what I think I've been so mostly impressed with, is that for when we first started this, and I was just marveling at this was a one-off and this was a 4-part arc, and I wasn't prepared for that. Right. Each one of these stories has... each one of these lines has not only nailed the voice of the Doctor, but to a certain extent, the storytelling aspects of how they're doing. They're just, we're all part of the same universe, but we're doing our own thing, Which
is amazing, because I still think they were doing a lot of this 12th Doctor stuff while they were still building season 9 or season 8. Yeah. So in order to be able to really give us that same era feel of storytelling and the personality of the Doctor, and for it to come across the way it does in these stories is amazing to me. Let's move on to these next two because, truthfully, these were my favorite.
I was really worried you wouldn't like these.
Only problem that I had with it is I wish they had just used Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, and Sammy Davis Jr. and not feel compelled to change the names for the sake
they
of
obviously had. I think they had to for copyright.
Yeah,
issues.
Absolutely. Especially since these are done in the UK. If these comics were done in the UK, I don't think they would have batted an eye of doing it. They would have just gone and done it. Unfortunately, these are published in the United States, and our copyright laws are much more stringent, much more strict, and much more constrictive. And so I think they really felt like they just needed to step outside and say, well, this is just a different name. Yeah. Same thing with the David Bowie idea.
Real quick before we switch over, the little comic strips at the end.
I haven't been reading those.
I haven't either.
You haven't either?
I read one or two, and they're not my cup of tea. They're a little too out there.
They give the one at the end of this issue a try. It's called The Board Games.
Oh, I did read that one.
It really encapsulates what the Doctor and Claire's relationship probably is between television adventures. It's this.
He uses an 11th Doctor device with the 12th Doctor's character.
Yeah, he basically.
It really does.
Right.
Yeah, I did see. Occasionally I'll read the first panel, and if it hooks me, then I'll go through in that one.
I feel compelled to keep reading them, even though it's like. And I honestly, I kind of miss the old Titan gags. I wonder what happened with the minifig stories that we were getting.
Well, I think they're discontinuing the line, so they probably are just getting.
Oh, is that why?
That's what I read that somewhere. That wasn't official, but I had read that somewhere that Titan's focusing more on other areas, and less on the vinyl fix.
That would probably explain why we haven't seen any at work in a good long while.
Yeah. Again, that was hearsay, but that's not official. So next week when the line comes out, don't go, well, Glenn said that they weren't going to do it anymore, because I've only read that. So it's
we're on
superficial.
9, right? I have to go back to my other...
Yeah, I had to jump into...
Yes. Wait, so... End of the Fractures?
End of the Fractures was 8.
What was the one you were talking about, the After Comics?
Yes.
Okay. I can lose that one off.
No. Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
it's not
that was
it's just a side note, not important, doesn't tie in with anything, but I thought it was a lot of fun.
I found the story arc really fun. And it's...
The Fractures or...
this new one.
The Vegas.
The Vegas one.
Gangland.
Gangland's part 1 and 2. Loved these. These were so cool. And...
So wait, hey, before...
They did such a good job... It still feels very 12th Doctor throughout the entire film.
It really
That's
does.
what's amazing.
Really does.
Even the setup of him telling the story of this gun and then
right?
for Earth, bang. What?
Sometimes in Series 8, there's a few times that the Doctor really feels like he's enjoying himself. I think through Series 8, there's times where the Doctor feels like, I could be doing something better. I could be doing something different now. I'd rather be doing something different now. And then there are particularly more Mummy on the Orient Express. I really get the impression from the portrayal that he's having a ball. That he's finally, okay, this is one that's, on my level, that kind of thing. And this in the comics was another one of those where I felt like the Doctor really was, he said, okay, now I'm in my element. I really enjoy what I'm doing right now. And it comes across.
So first of all, we get this backflash story of the Hyperion War.
Hyperion War, yeah.
Mad props to the artist for giving us some very cool villains.
Yeah. And a nice mixture.
It's not your standard. We've got a Zygon and an Ice Wearer and a Sontaran and a Silurian. And a Jadoon. And did you notice a half?
And a Whisperman.
Yeah. We got a half. Yeah. And a Whisperman.
The one-off... No, it wasn't Whisperman. It was...
is he from Akaton?
He's from Akaton. Yeah, it's not Whisperman, it's the Akaton guy.
Yes, it is, yep.
So that's the one that kind of struck me of those two are like, wow.
They're in the back, but it's like, cool. So we get this phenomenally cool story of Rassilon defeating...
these giant brain squids.
See, now it's going to lock up. I'm not going to... It keeps kicking me out of my program again.
With this Rassilon roulette is pretty much what they called it.
With a time gun.
That shoots a time bomb and just...
It doesn't just kill you, it annihilates you from all of history. You never existed.
Does that sound familiar, Keith?
A little bit.
Engines of War?
Oh yeah.
That was the technology that the Daleks was trying to harness that the Time Lords already had. But we're not using it. It's very early on that we figured that out.
Okay.
So
you guys got an extra little giggle out of that, I bet.
Yeah, this even does I went, aha, I know that.
It's at least the same technology, just
exactly.
format.
And the technology is familiar.
And steampunky. I love the fact that the gun looks steampunk.
It does look steampunk. I love that the Doctor, after some chiding from Clara, and even maybe some fiendish trickery, convinces the Doctor to gamble. And because he's using logic and numbering and dice counting and everything, because he's so smart, he's winning, and he ends up like $300,000 up over the house.
Oh, yeah.
And of course, then they take him up to the mob boss that owns the casino. And when the quote unquote wolf pack, which is really Rat Pack, every time the Frank, Dino, or Sammy character spoke, I heard their voices in my head.
So did I.
And they were, and the voices were written in the story very much in the way that they would have.
Yeah.
They spoke. It was so well done, so well done.
And 12. Going back to the gambling real quick, of all of the Doctors, 12 would totally play craps. Yeah. No, I cannot imagine anybody else pulling that off the way he does.
I would agree.
I can imagine 11 attempting to play craps.
That'd be completely different. And he would never have won.
He would never. Maybe accidentally thrown the dice onto another table. Probably a roulette table.
Yeah.
It feels very Ocean's 11, not new Ocean's 11. This feels very 1960s.
Yeah.
Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, Sammy Davis Jr., Peter Lawford. Peter Lawford. Yeah, I don't have to go through the whole cast, but it really feels like that era of just kind of caperish, you know. Not really a heist, but a caper. You know, just to put a name on it, a kind of a caper film.
The panel of them running in the laser beam just it feels like it's right for them, but whizzing it also feels very whizzing by. Feels very Scooby-Doo.
Oh, it did, but I was perfectly fine with it.
It totally fits with the story that's happening.
Like that. Oh, it did. It's a fun romp with a wonderful cliffhanger. Wonderful cliffhanger.
And I like the. I didn't know how you see. This was one of the things I was terribly concerned about. Is that you would feel the Hyperions were anthropomorphized.
Because they're essentially squids or octopuses.
Brainy squids with legs.
Sort of. No, it didn't really bother me, and I think because that's a common alien theme. Not to mention, they have kind of this claw thing going on, and they ride in these little repulsor lifts, and I didn't really have it.
Because what I really liked about it is that we were also very, at least in my mind, it was playing an homage to War of the Worlds and Mars Attacks, and
a little bit.
We've got these things in kind of
there's so many references in the beginning of Roswell and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That really helps build to that idea.
I love how the Doctor adds a hat to his ensemble. Oh,
you're going out like that. He makes her change, and then he just adds a hat to his, and suddenly he's 1960s Vegas. And it works.
It's a very classic style.
I really enjoyed the bodyguard story, too, that's going, the kind of the subplot here. The guy that was the bodyguard because he had thrown a fight. And so they said they're going to set him up and fix him up. And, of course, the revelation at the end of that he's actually been an FBI agent working undercover was even better. And, of course, I'm jumping quite ahead. We haven't got to 10 yet.
There are just so many layers in this story.
There's lots of layers in this story.
You don't expect to pay off as well as they do.
I would agree.
It's very reminiscent in a way of one of my favorite Deep Space Nine episodes, where there's I think I may have mentioned it before. There's the lounge singer from Vegas program that's in the holosuite, and there's apparently a Jack in the Box that's designed to keep the program interesting. Well, once they kind of determine that he's sentient, they leave the program running all the time. So this Jack in the Box happens far earlier than it's supposed to, and gangsters come in and buy out the casino. And they're changing everything, and nobody likes it. But the only way to reset it is to either reset it and thus reset him, or to solve the problem in scenario. So we do get an Ocean's 11 heist where they have to go in and solve the problem. And it's done very, almost playfully tongue-in-cheek for, what should be a very serious Star Trek episode. And you get these great slow motion of everybody wearing tuxes, including Worf. And it's hysterical. This reminds me of that tonally. That it's
I would agree.
It's not
I've
a
seen
farce.
that episode too.
It's a send-up.
It's a send-up.
Send-up.
Yeah. And it's a very well done one.
I do love that in the next story when they're trying to figure out where the Hyperions are living. And it's like, you pick the most obvious. They have the Cosmos Casino that looks like an old-style rocket ship. It's like, of course that's where they would be hiding.
Of course.
In plain sight, nearly. And then that's when we get the backstory of the bodyguard who was a boxer.
Yeah.
And he throws the fight he doesn't want to, but he throws the fight for his family and for the mob. And then.
And I love how they captured in that moment when he punches out the alien, and then he's talking with the doctor. The doctor knows what's going on. And he immediately jumps into that guest companion of the week mode where he's not asking questions other than the pertinent, how do we defeat it? It's not, how do you know all this? It's not okay, yes. And I just, that worked so well.
It does work.
And Clara gets some great action after they get kidnapped and tied up, and she gets some very nice man of action, almost doctorish stuff to do. I really appreciated the fact that they separated the two. They've been separating these two a lot because it's been kind of a trend in the series of exploring Clara as a doctor, and they're continuing that here, which I really appreciate.
Which, again, interesting that they're able to do that, considering you have to wonder how much of the floor print was laid out for them and said, this is what we're going to do.
Kind of a outline for Series 8, so they kind of know that they were working with that.
I love this panel right here. This is
the total send-up to Mars Attack.
To Mars Attack, to all of those 1960s
War of the Worlds,
pulp, horror, sci-fi, comics, and pulp novels, and all that was going on at that time. This is very much in league with that. I think it's so beautifully.
So this is one of the first ones in.
I've moved on to 10.
10.
Yeah, it's page 16 and 17.
Yeah, it's a bit of ways in.
Which, speaking really quickly of covers, when I first saw this one on the newsstand, I did not like it. I thought, what are we doing? What is with it? But then,
when you read the story, you went, it is so perfect.
Perfect.
I agree.
Yeah.
I completely agree.
It's one of my favorite covers we've gotten.
And then, of course, we wrap back around at the end of this story. We wrap back around to what was set up.
Rassilon Roulette.
Yep, Rassilon Roulette. And very acceptable, plausible finish to this.
Oh, I love the finish.
No,
I love
especially knowing that Rassilon was an advantage player and would have done that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So Rassilon. And the doctor knowing that that's the case. I loved that.
I love the fact that it wasn't a chance.
Yeah. It was Ocean's 11. It was set up the whole time. There was a plan.
And the very last line. Cheat me never. Well, I did it my way.
I did it my
And they're singing in the background at the same time. I have to say, 11 and 12's runs have been so solid throughout this entire time.
I would agree.
10 has dipped up and down a little bit for me. The Angel line was great, but it's 10 and 12 that have been consistently good.
For me, there were some 11 that early on that I thought needed some work that could have been better. But from that point on, I think it's been real solid. Well, we should move on to the actual pentacle of why we did our Titans comics this week. Because, as you listeners know, last weekend, or just a few days ago, was the Doctor Who Comic Book Day events going on all across America, and I hope, and the UK, I presume, and I hope that people actually were able to get out and get to some of these events. Unfortunately, circumstance being as they were for us, we didn't really ever get to partake in anything here in Topeka. But I think
this is also celebrating the first year.
Yeah,
this has now been a year.
We've gone a year
of Titan Comics.
They do a special Doctor event. I think we were all kind of there in spirit as far as
absolutely.
the days go. But this week also released the first issue of 5 of the Four Doctors story, written by Paul Cornell and apparently inked maybe by Neil Edwards. Is that who did the art? Yeah. Or art, yeah, it would have been pencils, not ink. Colorist was Yvonne Nunes, or Nunes, however you pronounce it.
This is such an exciting setup. I can't wait to see what happens. Because we start off with the War Doctor on Marinus.
As in keys of.
Complete with Vords. Updated. And
Vords.
Completely BA Vords.
Yeah, oh yeah.
This is what they were trying to do.
Yeah, exactly. This is what it should have been.
This is so cool. And then we cut away.
Unfortunately,
I want to see what happens.
Unfortunately for me, from that point on, the rest of the story is pretty middling.
It's set up. That's the problem.
Being that I just said that, I do recognize that this is an entire setup in order to bring these 3 guys together. Because we don't. The War Doctor does not show up until presumably the next episode, because he's not in
any of the
this
rest
one
of
at all,
particular.
except for the very beginning, which is a setup for what's going on here. I thought it was also kind of refreshing to see the Reapers return at the end of this, because they have created a paradox. Clara, in every effort to keep the Doctors from coming together, knowing that this is going to be a cataclysmic event, going behind their backs to meet up with the companions that we are currently in the run with now. So when we meet Gabby, she meets up with Gabby and Alice, and tries to orchestrate things so that the companions can keep them away from each other, only to have them there listening. Anyway, and all 3 showing up, which to me, Clara, in her infinite wisdom of trying to keep them apart, I think she's the catalyst for bringing them together. And of course, that creates the paradox. And I do like the fact that 12 and 10 start arguing. Which, if anybody's going to argue with this group, it's going to be those 2.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I also love
very different personalities. They're going to be the ones that argue, and then touching each other accidentally. And 11 being the one going, now that was the Blinovich limitation effect at work. It was like almost like he knew it was coming.
Is this handles?
I wondered the same thing.
Like we joined them just after an adventure where maybe 10 picked up handles.
And maybe Handles has been in the TARDIS the whole time.
The only thing is that's the old Cyberman face. That's a Cyberman face.
It is a Cybus.
It is a Cybus.
Or later, early
later.
Early later 11th Doctor run.
There you
so
go.
Probably not, but
probably not
could
Handles.
be.
I thought the same thing when he was hoisting that head up over, and I was like, oh.
I absolutely love how Alice and Gabby are kind of like, well, I don't know if I believe
very
you.
skeptical, yeah.
Bang, bang. Okay, yep, what's going on?
They turned on a dime when they realized.
It's so great.
Oh, well, it's because the dialogue leads them to there, and it leads them to there so nicely. It's like, quickly. Yeah, you might be onto something there.
Yeah.
Well, and sorry if I don't accept that story immediately. What's the box called? The TARDIS. What does he use to? Sonic screwdriver for everything. Okay.
Yeah, we got the same guys. Same doctors.
And the fact that the 11th Doctor has a monster book where all of his old faces are. What did you guys think of the art of this?
I thought it was gorgeous.
It's stunning for everyone except for 12, I think. I think 12 is they missed the mark on 12. I think 10 looks like 10. 11 looks very much like 11. 12, it's just not quite there. And I think maybe it's lack of eyebrows. If they would have gone a little heavier with the 12th Doctor's eyebrows, I think it would have got a lot better.
For me, the weak part of the art comes down with the conversation with the companions. And I kind of had to look and study to figure out between the two panels of Gabby and Clara, they cut from the 3-shot to the mid-shots of, wait, is that Gabby or Clara talking?
I think
I kind of had to go
I think
over
that was a mistake, quite honestly.
I think that's the reason why Clara's hair is shortened in this.
Yeah.
Because
to
Clara's
help
hair
keep
is
them
much
different.
longer than this, especially in the comics that we've been reading. And I think in order to help distinguish the two, I think that they went with the shorter hair for Clara, because you're right, they have some very... in fact, this
the faces are
this
very
right
similar.
here is very similar to Clara.
Yeah. They almost needed to put Clara in such a different outfit
Yeah.
to make her stand out more, so it helped you understand who was who. I mean, there's green and brown, but it's almost too close.
Yeah. But what I can say about it is it's got some great dialogue. Paul Cornell is no stranger to Doctor Who, and he's no stranger to these 3 Doctors or these companions, because I think they're very much in line with their tone, their feel, and their character. I think where this falls down, and unfortunately this is just going to happen in an issue like this, because we're setting up for a 5-week event.
Yeah.
And so you've got to have some exhibition, you've got to have some setup, and that's what this does, and I think it does it well. It just, unfortunately, after you get to the end, it's almost like, is that it? It felt like
the ball really starts going, and then we hit the end.
Yeah, then you just and then unfortunately the action doesn't really happen until the end. I mean, there's nothing going on until the Reapers actually come. Which again, I am so glad. Although Paul Cornell invented the Reapers,
Yeah, so of course he brought him back.
so that's his baby.
Yeah. If anybody's going to bring him back, it's him.
Probably didn't have to get the BBC's permission at all on that one. He probably has writer arbitrary rights. So,
But you're totally right with the voices. There's so many great lines in this that I was enjoying the banter so much. We reached the end before I realized it, and I was like, no, more, give me more."
No. In fact, I had to go back and look at the page numbers to see if there were as many page numbers in this, because it really felt like there wasn't near as many pages in this as there are in the rest of the series. But there were. They all round out at about 28, 29, or 30 pages. So
That there were 2 lines that just really, I don't know why, but struck home to me, and I really appreciated when Alice says to 12, "I like my doctor." And 12 says, "Me too." In a second, that one over there is going to tell me he's so sorry. And that's not a topic on 10 that's brought up enough, in my opinion, because everyone say Alan Z is his catchphrase. No, sorry is his catchphrase.
I think fans dwell on the fact that he's the sorry doctor. He's always sorry. But they never do it kind of meta. Like
they never meta it.
And I love how Clara slips up, but doesn't catch it.
That was my second bit.
Right, hello. Right, well done. And hello again, you.
I mean,
just hello. Hello for the first time.
Yeah.
and 11 not even picking up on it.
Meanwhile, Gabby and Alice with when you look like that, it's usually time to run. Usually. Yeah, for mine too. Yeah, I burn through trainers.
Just the entire dialogue throughout the entire thing is so rich and so great.
So bravo, Paul Cornell. Nice start to the series.
Yes,
absolutely. I really can tell I'm going to enjoy it, even though I think this first one's just kind of there. But
it's going to be a bit hard to review these issue by issue.
Yeah, seeing some of the previews for the next episode or the next issue, clearly the War Doctor will be brought on board very soon. So,
well, the good news is we don't have to wait all that long, because this is a weekly event as opposed to some of the monthly ones that they've been doing. So we get issue 2. In fact, by the time you're listening to this, it's already on stands, so you can go pick your copy up, and we will be reviewing them week by week by week. So we'll do issue 2 next week.
This is our big lead up to the Series 9 premiere.
Yeah.
So.
And if you were able to go out and hit up a comic book store that did some Titan Doctor Who Day stuff, certainly send us an email or some pictures or something of what was going on. I would be very curious to know what else was out there.
Yeah.
that we didn't get to take advantage of. So.
All right. Well, with that, you've kind of given a little bit of the schedule away. What else is coming up on the schedule?
Well, what else is coming up on the schedule? Because, as you said, we're leading up into our season 9 is rapidly approaching. I don't know, rapidly. I could stand for it to go a little faster, actually.
It'll be here before you know it.
It will be here before you know it. But we've
the Top Con's coming too, and I'm a little nervous about it now.
Why?
I don't know. Seems like we've got a lot more responsibility at this particular convention than we've ever had, but that's okay. We'll do fine. Everything will be great. Everything will be smooth.
As a football player, as a football coach told one of his players, "Hell, son, you can't do that. You're in your home state." For Friday Night Who next week, we are watching The Aztecs, just because it's been a while since we've had a Hartnell story. So I thought, let's do that one. It's a fun one.
And it's on Netflix.
And it's on Netflix. So if you are new to the whole Friday Night Who thing and don't realize what we do, come on down and join us at midnight next week for The Aztecs. And readily available for a change for some of the ones we've been doing. And then we're going to be doing some Big Finish. We'll be doing the Sixth Doctor and Evelyn in number 60, Medicinal Purposes, and number 78, Peer Pressure. And
spelled P-I-E-R.
P-I-E-R. Might give a slight spoiler to its location. And then the Titan Comics, which it's not on the schedule, but we're announcing this now that we're doing the next 4 Doctors comic next week as well. On the 28th of August is the first 3 episodes of John Pertwee and Planet of the Spiders, which is another one that's unavailable on DVD. But it does appear to be available on Dailymotion and Hulu, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, and we keep saying it's not available on DVD. It's not one of those ones that has drastically fallen off. It must have fallen off recent enough that the price point on them have not gone up, because about 2 weeks ago I picked it up for $36 on Amazon,
that's not bad.
Which is, for a 2-disc set,
that's a little higher, but not much.
Yeah, well, it's within the range of being affordable. So I actually had some Amazon credits, so that's why I ended up picking it up. But if I'm going to use Amazon credit, I'm going to do it on something I can knock it down to a manageable price. So.
Yeah.
It is a 6-parter, so we're breaking it up over 2 weeks. So we're going to do 1 through 3 on that Friday. Then some more Big Finish. We're going to be doing the Fifth Doctor and Turlough in number 76, Singularity. And then we'll pick up the next Perry and Aramim adventure with the Fifth Doctor in number 71, The Council of Nicaea. Sure.
You've never heard of the Council of Nicaea?
I've never heard of the Council of Nicaea.
That's where the Catholic Church essentially got together and established dogma and pretty much the rules for the church.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm not Catholic.
I'm not either.
I knew the name. I didn't know what it was from.
Preacher's son.
That was the first council that did that. They've done that, I think, once or twice. One of them was called Vatican I, and one was called Vatican II, where they actually
had cons.
That's pretty much what it is. It was a big convention.
They had a convention.
And now I say all the Catholics got together. It was just the cardinals and the bishops and the Pope. But
did they get postcards?
It was
the higher ups.
It was a cardinal con.
That should be the next one.
Hello, my name is
Cardinal Con.
Cardinal Con. And then
it's to be held in St. Louis.
Boo.
Boo.
Could be Arizona.
Okay.
That's true. The football team did go down there and didn't change their mascot, which I always thought was weird.
Are there Cardinals in Arizona? No, there's not.
No.
Just like there's no tarantulas here.
If they are, they're lost.
And then September 4th, we'll finish off Planet of the Spiders for Friday Night Who with parts 4 through 6. And then episode number 245 will review Planet of the Spiders. That'll take us, I'm not going to go too much further. The rest of the schedule is posted, and as Glenn pointed out, we do have TopCon coming up as well, actually the same weekend that the Magician Apprentice airs on season 9. So it's the schedule's up. You can go look and follow along if you would like to. But keep in mind that we're doing some Big Finish now. It might seem like a lot of Big Finish now, but we're just kind of going to knock some out before we get into season 9, because obviously once those episodes start, we're not doing anything but season 9 on the show, and so we won't be doing any Big Finish for a while there. But we should be knocking out all of the Fourth Doctor's comic books each week between now and the start of season 9.
Correct.
So
Yes.
there's going to be one a week, so you can go pick those up fairly easily. And
You can probably
follow
still
them.
get issue 1 someplace.
Oh, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you can always get them digitally.
Yep.
And that was something that, real briefly, because I don't know if you guys saw the physical copies of them. Titan has a really great on the back of all of their Doctor Who comics. They've been advertising Big Finish stuff.
Oh, that's really great.
Every single one of them I've seen has had a Big Finish
Kudos.
ad in the back.
That's great
and some
partnership.
information on the subscription costs and different things like that. So
Terrific.
that's very, very,
There's some good
very cool.
cross-promotion
So
there.
I thought I'd point that out since we just mentioned Big Finish. But that, as they say, is that.
All right. Well, of course, we want to encourage you to continue to support us on Patreon. It helps tremendously with keeping the show on the interwebs. And
Just
you obviously can
put out a very large outlay for servers.
Yeah,
So thank you.
we're
for
on
that.
for another year. Thanks to the
now we need
thanks to the
content.
Patreon subscribers. And also, you can support us through our Amazon store. You can click on our Spreadshirt link and buy Traveling Vortex merchandise. There is a few more new items up there. And
I need to order my shirt.
obviously, there are other ads on our site that we'd like you to click through as well if you can. So, anything else we need to do before we finish this one out?
I don't believe so.
Nope.
If that's going to do it for this week, until next week, I'm Glenn.
I'm Sean.
I'm Keith.
Cheers.
Good night, everybody.
Be seeing you.
You have been listening to Traveling the Vortex. Doctor Who and all of its associated programs are owned and trademarked by the BBC. No infringement is intended or implied.